Welcome to Season 2 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter and more knowledgeable about the field of parks and recreation. Join hosts Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country as they dive into the world of parks and recreation with a surprise guest each episode. Laughs, leadership, life. This is RecLess.
Welcome to the 42nd episode of RecLess, a podcast where we are talking all things park and recreation through three close friends from around the country. My name is Jay Tryon. I am your host today. And as always, I have my two trusted partners of crime with me, Shane Mize and Tom Venniro. How are you guys doing today?
Good. I like that. Partners in crime. That's
Partners in crime. That's a new one. I like this.
Partners in crime.
He's hitting his stride, isn't he?
He really is.
Yeah. I feel like there's always trouble when we get together in person. So maybe we'll have more trouble too virtually as they
plenty of trouble virtually as well.
I think there's been some trouble that the guests don't even know about. And it's funny, Shane and I were talking before we started because I thought the numbers were different for this one, but because we've had some mishaps here and things that didn't get recorded there, some of our numbers are off. But nonetheless, this is the last episode that we're recording for season 2, which is quite sad, but also quite exciting that we've made it to season 2.
Yeah.
Considering in the beginning of season 1, we had some metrics that we were reading about is if you make it to this number, you're successful. And not only did we make it to that number, but we doubled it. So kudos to the team that is working on this and want to take that in one direction and actually kind of challenge you guys to think about something and how we're going to obviously grow this. And, we're really enjoying it. But the more that we've talked, the more that we have been on these episodes every single week, you guys have inspired me both personally and professionally. And I think a lot of the things that we've always talked about is work stuff, but we recently had an episode with our wives and we're talking more about our families and, how this impacts us both professionally and personally. But I'm just curious, we've talked a lot about accomplishments and things that we've achieved in our career, but what is next for you guys? Is there a goal or initiative that you're pursuing right now that you hope to accomplish sometime in 2024 or maybe early 2025?
Well, first of all, Shane's got the whatever floats your goat shirt on today. Brand new, right?
That's right. I had the department heads in Pflugerville each make a presentation a month to council just as a way to give an update of what we're doing. Each one has a month. Obviously, July is Parks and Rec month. And so we did our proclamation and I had these shirts ready. And I've told you about these shirts, but I hadn't told anybody else. I told city manager's office and I said, can I give them to them at the dais? And they were like, yeah, we'll figure out a way. And so we did our proclamation. Then I came up to do my presentation and we handed out bags that were closed. And I said, this is, you'll get to these in a minute. Don't open your bags yet. And we were doing the presentation. And when I got to the goat slide, I told them, look in your bag. And when they all turned around to grab their bag, I actually had a black goat shirt on and I had a sweater vest over it. So I ripped my sweater vest off. And so by the time they turned back around, there I am in a goat shirt. And they all got their goat shirts. And then I talked about how the goat shirts were going to go live on Tuesday. So it was a pretty cool moment.
Man, that's a good story. I did not expect that story. I just was wanting to point out
Unveiled
there was a goat shirt. But yeah, secondly, though, I was just going to say that's why I started with the first of all. Secondly, Jay prepped us with a question from
that he didn't ask us.
That he didn't ask us. So, hey, yeah, I can let you know, at least from my perspective, I've been, I think, Jay, you said it. We've talked a little bit about where we come from, our backgrounds, our passions, whatever that means, professionally or personally. And on the professional development end, I always try to basically, I think the best way to say it is pass it on to the next person, right? And so I've been able to really benefit from a lot of opportunities. And now I want to try to create those spaces and create those opportunities for others. So recently at the state level, actually just today, we just got on a call about sponsoring their leadership academy. So Leadership New York. And Jay, you have a little bit of knowledge on this because a young lady, Naomi Sosnowski, rock star, superstar in the field from Jay's neck of the woods, Buffalo area. She had reached out to me and said, hey, I'm looking to do this for New York. I'm assuming maybe you've heard of some leadership academies or leadership programs. And I said, you know what? Yeah, it would be great to see something like that in New York. And Jay and a couple others, but Jay, you were one of the first names I thought of because of what you all do in North Carolina, what you've done in Mecklenburg. So she had reached out to you and a few other folks from around the country, and that's getting kicked off very, very soon. And just to be on the periphery as a part of that is pretty exciting. You know, something, a new way to give back here at the state. And I guess for me, you know, I guess personally, what I'm looking to do at that professional level is just continue to share what I can. And this podcast has inspired me to do that, right? You know, I mean, on some of the presentations that I've been giving, it feels wrong for some reason to put our podcast in a presentation. It's almost like a real weird self-promotion.
Self-promotion. Yeah.
That's not what I'm trying to do, though. This has nothing to do with me. It really doesn't. Our guests, you two individuals, I learned so much. You said that, Jay. I learned so much from these episodes on a regular basis. So obviously not just this episode, but I do enjoy, you know, that's been a newer part of my journey recently, is just kind of going from state to state. And for those who are who will have me, you know, I don't know how I don't know how long that'll last, but I really enjoy that, meeting new people and passing on a few things, a few tidbits here and there. So I want to continue to build that if people will have me.
I think the great thing about when you're talking about the podcast, and I'm not the promoter of our group. I'm the least promoter oriented person of our group. But what I found is even when people are bragging to me about the podcast, they're never like, Shane, you're a great host.
I've never heard that.
It's always about the guest, right? So I don't think we're self-promoting as much as we're promoting the really cool guests we have, because no one comes on and says, wow, that thing you or Jay or Tom said really hit. It's usually like the thing, you know, Jody Adams said really hit. And you're like, yeah, no, I get that. And so
we're just the platform. That's all.
Right.
We are. And, you know, Shane, I'm glad you said that because, you know, I was recently watching a video and it was just one that came through my feed about just what can I do for you, for someone who did a favor for another individual. And they didn't want anything in return. The ask was just give it to the next person, right? Pass it to the next person. And that's what I really have found about this podcast is when people praise us about the podcast, you said it right. It's not because of Jay, Shane, Tom. It's because they learned something from someone or from one of the guests. It resonated. It hit them in the heart, something that they could really relate to, which that's ultimately, I'm really proud of this podcast for that. It's helping people.
Yeah, I agree. For me, just for next steps, I'd like to land a couple things. I'm a big, as we all know, a wonder guy, a tinker. I love to get really high in the clouds. I love to be really upstream. And there are some projects that I need to land. I need to land for me to know that I can land those projects. I need to land to me for this department, for this agency that deserves this quality rec center that we're working on, and the lake improvements and the sports complex improvements. And there have been times in my career where I look for WI opportunities where not only am I a WI, but I look for an agency that's looking for wonder, and I jump. And what it looks like is that that husband that has the to-do list, they never finishes a project. You know, he starts on the fencing and he starts on creating new stairs and he never finishes it because, you know, downstream, it's not very fun to complete, you know, those projects. Or for some people, it's not. Some people love that, right? But that's not me. So I need to get this rec center built. I need to get the sports complex. I'm working on a really cool thing with Austin FC. I need to land a couple of these things. We're one of 6 playgrounds in the country that got awarded playground distinction. I need to nail that. I need to, you know, and nail it through the ribbon cutting. You know what I mean? So for me, in the next couple years, I'm trying to land some of these planes that I got in the air and really something I can look back and over my career and be really proud of what I provided that community and the hard work my team did on it. And it won't feel like that if I leave before that happens, or if I hand that off and someone else gets to land the plane. So I think that's probably what I'm looking forward to. It's work I don't like to do. It's me being in ET work, you know, but the working genius says it calls for that too. You got to be able to do all 6 stages. So,
but that end result is really what matters. And
absolutely.
that would be the most satisfying thing possible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, it's like you mentioned the analogy of landing the plane. Like I can't imagine starting to build a property or building a park and then just like leaving it without it being finished and not seeing it to the fulfillment of that. So
I don't know. I think about it all the time. I mean, this rec center is going to be one of, if not the largest rec center in the state of Texas. And we have cool real basketball courts and indoor turf facilities and really cool aquatics. And we're looking for some things that no one else in the country has. But once we get to schematic design, which we're almost at some point, it's just about building the damn thing. And I find very little value in the process of waiting for it to be built and thinking about how we're going to run it. All my fun, all my joy was in the creation of, but I'm a park and rec professional. They expect us to land these projects as well as create them. So
yeah, but the steps of seeing it be developed will be exciting.
oh yeah, for sure.
So I'm similar to Tom in the professional development side. I think I recently started creating sessions based around the conversations that we've had actually with Tom too, about how our profession is in a challenging area right now, that we're not getting the same number of park and rec people pursuing degrees in park and rec.
Yep.
There's majors around the country or universities that are dropping the major. So I've been having a lot of side conversations with other professionals about what they're doing or what we can do and how we can come together and, you know, combat that. And I had a meeting earlier this week with two folks from Colorado.
Really?
And looking at what they've done or what they've done in Colorado, not specifically to just their town, but the state of Colorado. And, you know, it's been a passion of mine. I've had some conversations with Chris Nunes about it, but I mean, the number is really tragic of universities that have dropped our major.
Yeah.
And I know, like I said, Tom and I have talked about it because the school that he has taught at, that I went to and I got my degree from, they're dropping the major themselves. So it kind of hit home, especially more with that being my school, and then hearing the same thing from others around the country. So really just trying to light a fire about what we can do to bring more awareness to our profession for high school age people, as well as college age people, that, you know, maybe you don't have to pursue the degree, but just making sure there's awareness on all the things we do. And, you know, there's always going to be jobs that aren't even necessarily that would have a park and rec degree from the capital planning perspective, from the environmental programming perspective, from the marketing side, from the finance side. There's all these different areas that, you know, they didn't come to our departments with a park and rec degree, but they love what they do because of the impact we make, the communities we serve. So just trying to wrap all that up in different areas of like, hey, how can we attract more people to learn about what we do, but not just the programmers and special events and athletics, but all the other jobs that are needed within a department.
It's interesting. If the park and rec industry degree was an animal, they would be putting it on the endangered species list. Like it is near extinction. Like it at a rapid, if it was an animal, conservationists would be up in arms with what was happening, because even the biggest, most credited schools, you're seeing them have to make the very hard decisions that this major doesn't bring in what it used to. It doesn't recover the costs or whatever business decision universities are having to make. And it is evaporating so quickly. It's shocking.
Yeah. And to that point, accreditation for agencies, not only is the major going away, but that there's less and less agencies that are reaccrediting and going for a new accreditation. So, I mean, it's been, and I just have learned about that recently, but obviously they go hand in hand, right? So yeah, you're right. It's definitely on the brink of extinction.
Great.
Not sure where to go from here, but there are some groups working on that, Jay, and you're a part of that. So that's exciting.
Okay, well, let's go on to the guest who has been waiting patiently. And today's guest has over 36 years experience in a variety of roles in park and recreation. They have presented at a variety of both national and regional based conferences. At one point, our guest actually met Barack Obama before he became president and had a conversation with him and a picture during a NRPA mid-year legislative conference.
Oh, I was going to ask if they were Illinois, because that would have been, you know, Barack was from Illinois, but you're saying it was at like a ledge forum back in the day?
Mm-hmm. Our guest is a avid golfer, and they have had one hole-in-one but it actually happened to be with rental clubs on Christmas Eve. So way to kick off your holiday for sure.
That should count double if it wasn't your clubs.
Yeah, exactly. Our guest is very involved with the local Rotary Club and was presented the Rotarian of the Year award. Tom's got a face like he knows who it is.
That's just my face.
Our guest has served on a number of committees within the academy, and at least one or two of us have worked alongside this person on these committees.
Is it Prue?
Nope.
I have ideas. I mean, I don't know. Give us one more.
You are in the correct state. So the state you mentioned earlier is correct.
Okay.
But they have recently moved out of that state and they moved to Florida. Nope. Okay. Today's guest is the founder and CEO of Plan4Action, which provides a variety of strategic planning services. Please welcome Mike
Mr. Clark.
Oh, hello. How's it going?
How you doing, guys?
Hey,
Good to
good.
have
How
you.
you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Retirement's the bomb, so it's all good.
Yeah, we've heard that on this episode, on this podcast before. People that are retired really like retirement.
It's all good.
Yeah. See, I had one other hint that I was going to try to put out there, and you guys may not realize this, but I was looking at our list of past guests, and this is our 5th guest with the name Mike or Michael.
Wow.
So
didn't know
it is
that.
the leading name for all of our guests.
There you go.
I didn't know if that was going to give it away, but like you just
Yeah,
said, Mike,
it's such a unique name. So
Yeah.
I mean, you just said it. You recently retired, so you were the executive director for Palatine Park District in Illinois, where you
Yep.
served that executive role for over 12 years. And I'm curious, did you always know, like when you were planning to retire, that you wanted to pursue your own business?
it was always a vision, more to just stay engaged and connected. It's you hear stories about people, they leave the profession, and and we talked about this in Illinois all the time when I served on that board and the foundation is, there's such a ability of institutional knowledge and experience that, you leave and it's like, Mike, who? And so I've always had that vision. I wasn't quite sure what the exact company would be and what I would do and everything, but certainly, doing it on my own terms and my own time and doing, the work that I really enjoy. So, strategic planning, helping people take plans and turn them into action, hence Plan4Action. Professional development and training, which you guys know I'm all about, especially with the extern program with the Academy. I was chairman of our Illinois Park and Rec Foundation for almost 10 years. And that was all about supporting, and you just talked about it, helping build that next generation of leaders. And, to Tom's point, one thing that we introduced at Palatine when I was there was while we had those seasonal employees in seats and we're orientating them and training them for their, camp counselors, lifeguards, whatever it might be. Part of our orientation was a little video of the profession. You're in it part-time, but here's a potential career opportunity. And so that was at least our part, because even in Illinois, we were seeing, a degradation in the university accreditation of Parks and Rec. So that was something that we committed to. And, I wasn't around long enough to see if that strategy actually came to fruition. It'll be interesting to see if anyone ever tracks that to see if it worked. But that was one strategy that we tried to do to help that issue, because it is a big concern. And on top of, you have it like the bookends, the people leaving and retiring and not keeping connected, and then the introductory of new professionals coming in.
So Mike, congrats on your retirement.
Yeah,
and
thank you, sir.
because it's so recent, I think my first question for you is, over the span of 36 years, it's a two-parter. I'm channeling
Sure.
Minor Tom for this. Over the span of your 36 years as a park and rec professional, when you look back at it now, what is the one thing that you're most surprised about that never changed constantly in our industry? It stayed true for 36 years. And what was the thing that you're most surprised did change?
Well, I think the thing I don't think it's ever changed is the passion and commitment of the staff. You know, people come and go and turnover happens and fruition happens, but when people are truly in it as a career track, that passion and commitment never wavered. You know, there were variances on performance, but the belief in what I was doing and making an impact and difference. The thing that surprised me the most, I think it was adapting to the different generations and how, you know, they viewed work-life balance and the commitment to the community. And I'm not saying positive or negative, but over the years that transitioning of different generations in our field. And then the other thing I would say is the movement to specialties. You know, back in the day when I first started, we wore a lot of hats, and we still do. But, you know, you entered human relations people, marketing people, IT people, all for the good, because I think overall, as the profession matures and communities demand more, you need those experts in those areas, you know, like risk management. We brought in, you know, full-time at Palatine, a risk manager, because we were serving like 83,000 people. It was a large district. And with a lot of unique, we even have an equestrian center. So, you know, a lot of unique opportunities and stuff, but along with that came a lot of potential liabilities and things like that. So I think combination of the transitioning of the different generations, and then the specialty profession elements that come into play, and tapping into those people that probably never dreamed of working for park and rec agents in an industry that was passionate, committed, and then they could apply their expertise and experience at a public sector kind of setting. Being a leader in that was something that I valued very much and learned a ton from each of those disciplines.
Yeah, Mike, I really appreciate that answer, and I want to ask a couple follow-ups to that
Sure.
that question that Shane had just asked you. First of all, I do want to say, though, again, like we've talked about how you recently retired. I'm just saying this. I don't know if anybody else notices. Whenever I talk to someone who recently retired, and I just had someone of 23 years,
they glow.
yes, they glow. What's
They're
going
glowing.
on? What's in the water that they're drinking after they retire? I don't
Yeah.
understand. It's just the
I don't even know
smile,
if his
the
feet are touching the
face.
ground.
Yeah,
He's just floating.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. I'm not the only one. Okay.
No. I pinch myself every day. Retired, moved down to Florida. We're in Osprey, Florida, which is on the Gulf Coast, just south of Sarasota. You know, and it's just, you know, living great life, enjoying it, taking that breath, taking it in, getting more golf in. It's it's great. It is the bomb, and really enjoy the new network of people and friends and chapters that Donna and I, my wife, are creating. And yeah, we just got back from a great once in a lifetime trip, did a golf trip with 3 other guys to Ireland. And then we met up our ladies in Amsterdam and took a river cruise through Europe. Wow. About 8-9 days. And it's just, you know, never been overseas, and just spectacular. So that's probably why I'm also glowing.
Yeah.
Very relaxed.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. So
It makes retirement sound terrible. You know, just,
I think you should just stay working.
Well, I'm super happy for you. That sounds amazing.
Thanks, Thank you.
And yeah, so, you know, I want to go back, and that follow-up question is going to be directly to what you mentioned about the generations. I actually was asked by the YPN recently to talk a little bit about that from my perspective, and it's unique. And I've been in the field for, I think, 17 years now. So, you know, that's less than half the time that you've had to really experience the generational differences as you go forward. And really, my question to you, you did it for 36 years. That means you were doing something right. There was success. As you really got towards let's say the second half, right? And that's more what I can relate to, right? Because that second half was probably most of the time I was in the profession.
Yep, you're on the back nine.
Yeah. So for the individuals, those generations that you've worked with, I've always felt that, what you really want to do is find the most passionate person. You said that, right? The passion. And then you can get the most out of someone.
Mm-hmm.
But the newer generations, simply put, have a different way of life, upbringing, technology, just everything that they have at their fingertips is much different than maybe I did or what you did. And so can you give us all a little bit of tips and tricks on and how you managed to sustain the success of relating and working through the generational differences, as that time progressed, and maybe more specifically with the newer generations?
Yeah. I just think being connected and relatable to them, and not let the age or generation part of it become a stigma or a barrier, but actually an opportunity to grow and develop for both of us. And so, one thing I did was, and my mentors, I have to give them credit, every single full-time employee that we hired, I met one-on-one for about an hour. And invested my time really for that. One of those is that purpose is to make that connection, make them see me, even though I'm a seasoned veteran who's been around, had my ways. I didn't want them to come across with that stigma. And I wanted them to be knowing that I'm very approachable, I'm very open, relatable to, what's going on in their life, how they were trained and brought up. And then how we together, along with the colleagues they work most closely with, can collaborate and work as a team for the better good of the community. And I think that was the focus of the message. And so I tried to really break down those walls and barriers that, physically are there. You're not going to change somebody's experience base or their age or whether they're a baby boomer or Gen X or whatever. And, we label and stereotype, and we're still all people, and we're committed people to, hopefully with, a master plan or strategic plan with goals in place, we know the direction we want to go in. And my job was to be like the air traffic controller, facilitating that and then empowering them to do what they want to do. And I think being very open and genuine to know that they're going to do it differently. Yeah. And that's okay. And accepting that and actually learning from them, so that I don't get stuck in my ways. Always been committed to being a lifelong learner. And same as you, my mentors, when I finally realized in my career the value that those people brought to me and wanted to say thank you in some way other than just thank you, it didn't seem enough. And I asked them, and they're like, same as you, Tom. They're like, just pass it along to the next person, build that next legacy. And so I've always honored and committed that advice from those mentors. And I think that goes a long way to, just having the self-awareness and emotional intelligence to understand that those generations think differently. They problem solve differently. And, I remember a life lesson with one of my sons, and, they were doing math and stuff, and we were working through a problem, and I was sitting down with them, and they were jotting stuff down on the paper. And I'm like, I'm trying to follow it. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, this is how you go about it. And so the light bulb finally went off after I, enough self-awareness of what was going on here. And I said, okay, let's move on to the next question. I said, I'm going to do it on this sheet of paper and the way I know how to do it. And you're going to do it the way you know. Well, obviously the story ends where we both come up with the same answer, and a lesson learned for both of us. And that was eye-opening for me, early on. And so I've always carried that in my head to keep that mindset and focus that there's more than one way and navigational path to get to that end result. And as long as you're open and respect that you can empower people to reach that potential. And then you throw in your experience and leadership competence, along with your energy and attitude and relating to them. And then when you come to that end result, make sure you got to celebrate it, right? We don't celebrate that stuff enough either. So, and then that celebration to me has always meant a sustainable thing that now we got some momentum going, and now we're starting to relate on different levels, and those wires from here are starting to connect from down here for them. And, it's a really cool kind of organizational dynamic thing that I've experienced. And I think it helped me become a better leader in the end.
Before Jay hops in, we don't talk about this enough in leadership, I think, when we talk about managing generations. But I remember 15, 16 years ago being in the industry, and I was the youngest generation, and I was at a conference where I felt like every conference was about how to deal with us, and they were browbeating the shit out of us because we were whatever to them. And I remember sitting in a session, someone put up a quote, and to paraphrase, it was something like, "This generation sucks, they're lazy," or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, fuck, they're going to be talking about my generation." And then they reveal the name of the quote, and it was like Socrates or Aristotle or something. Like, this has been something that has happened since the first day of time. Like, the older people have always looked at a younger generation and said, "Why are they doing it that way? Those knuckleheads, they'll never be able to figure it out." And if you're in this field 30 or 40 years or whatever, you have 2 or 3 generations of people that you're dealing with, how they mitigate their problems, how they regulate their emotions, how they do all those things. And you don't want to paint with a broad brush, but they generally group in such a way that they do kind of that they all handle things a certain way because that's what they've seen, or that's how they've experienced things or whatever. So it is, you never want to stereotype or whatever, but you can make some generalizations about the generations. But I remember that quote just being like, this shit's happened since the very beginning. Like, there's always been an old timer screaming, "Get off my yard," or whatever. And so I thought that was interesting.
They all push that rock to the top of the pyramid differently.
Yeah, for sure.
And you could, we could talk about the generational differences. You can get scientific about it. And like you said, Shane, paint it with a broad brush. And sure, you're going to find some commonalities. In preparation for talking about that with the YPN, I ended up asking my youngest full-time staff, 22-year-old. We hired him in February. Just thinks differently, right? And I asked him, I go, "Listen, I'm going on talking about generational differences. I want to ask you some questions. How do you like to be managed?" Things that we talked about a little bit when he was hired in the training, but I asked him this, and he was kind enough to write me a paragraph, like a book of all this. And I was shocked to see what I read. And ultimately, I found this little chart, right, of people who do all the studies. This is what you should expect of Gen Z and Y and whatever they all are. Right. My opinion, that broad brush is great, but you could throw those studies out the window because every individual is different.
Yep.
Everybody, and Mike, you boiled it down to I think the real basics. All it is relating with people. Yeah. Connecting with them, understanding them. I know when we talk about that with the Working Genius, it's really, seek to be understood, or seek to understand first before seeking to be understood, right? And that's I think that's what it all boils down to.
It's building relationships, fostering them, and then finding ways to sustain that through respect and collaboration, and celebrating those successes, even when those stigmas of labels might be in place. And society these days, I just find people judge very quickly. And so sitting, like with my onboarding, sitting down with them one-on-one, we might have a 30-year difference in age and things like that. But when we start talking about the park district and what we're trying to accomplish and their role in it and my role in it, and I've always I had a Sweet 16 list, I call it, sports fan with March Madness, but I had key 16 things that I wrote out, and it was my script with every one of them on, and it was just about that, just making that connection, building that relationship, and finding a way to make those connections instead of those quick judgmental things. Oh, he's he's near retirement. He doesn't understand a thing about technology. So, but anyway, I think that is the core of it. And I think, moving forward for you and others, I would say, you're hoping that a full-time employee is a long-term investment. And you think about the time we spend on little trivial things. And yet sometimes I think at least I found, and my mentors helped me learn it, is, it's about the people in park and recreation. And so you got to take the time to invest in that, and just sitting down. And yeah, it's a lot. It's not like I'm meeting with every employee, but at least all the full-timers. And then the part-timers, I did a video that they include in their orientation, just so they know my face and who I am, and the belief in what we're doing for the community. But yeah, that's really relatable, and making those connections, and giving them, a list of things that I believe as a new employee I would want to know. And also what I believe are the things that will make them fit into our culture better, and helpful hints to build, their confidence towards success. It was a practice that I kept with, and to this day, I still hear from employees of what that meant to them, and other directors that I've presented this topic to over the years said how much of a difference it had made for them.
Well, it's almost an example of, you want to practice what you preach. And in our profession, maybe more than most professions, we are always tasking our staff and tasking all of our department to build relationships and make connections with the families that come to our rec centers, with the folks that are going to our pools and our greenways. And if we can't do that from a leadership perspective, if we can't connect with our staff and build a relationship, how are we going to then tell them to do that with our users and our visitors and our members?
That's a great point.
So you probably said like 5 different things when you're talking about how you sat staff down and how you got to know them personally. And from all the different, leadership quotes that I've seen come through my LinkedIn feed, it's always, build those relationships, be genuine, connect with one another. And that's what we do. I mean, that is our mission on so many different levels.
Yeah. And I kind of, one other thought is, obviously you have to have an organizational hierarchy for supervision and employees and performance appraisals and all that. But, one of my 16 things on there was really in the context of what we're trying to do here, our organizational chart is flat. Just because I have a different title and a different role in that context, it's as flat as the desk I'm sitting next to. And I try to give that insight. And again, it's more about making them realize not only are they valued and important in the role they have to play for our collective success, but that, and that I'm here to support them, but that their role is just as important in mine in that context. And even though I have different responsibilities and roles from that perspective, it's the same. And I really try to communicate that in a real genuine, relatable way, so that they don't think I'm just blowing smoke up their butt. They can genuinely see I mean it, and then I back it up. I always try to learn more about them during that meeting, and then when I see them in the hallway or something, I always try to remember something that they told me during that onboarding, and then I can have those conversations other than just nodding my head or saying, "Hey, how you doing? Have a great day." Those are great things, but it gets old after a while. And so you got to find those unique personal attributes about that person and what their interests are. So that genuality and relatability, even as that executive director, because I always wanted to be approachable. I never wanted to be that pedestal leader. It just doesn't belong in our industry, I don't believe, from that context. So that's just some other insights and thoughts I had on that.
It's funny you say that. I remember everyone's probably had a supervisor or a leader that they've admired for different reasons. And one that comes to mind for me, Jim Garges, when he was the director in Mecklenburg County.
Yeah, I know Jim.
Jim always knew everyone's family's names or your spouse's names or your kids' names. And he made a point to do that. And it was always, how's Noah doing? How's Lindsay doing? Whenever I would see him. And, it felt genuine. It felt that he truly cared, and he did. But, it's not just how are you doing, but how's your family doing, and take it to the next level. But I'm going to switch gears for a minute and kind of piggyback off the question that Shane asked when he was asking about, what has surprised you over the tenure with your Illinois years, but what has surprised you with your new venture with Plan4Action so far?
Thank God I built a network. I'm hearing from people. Just had another younger professional who said I was a mentor to them, who's recently become a new director and is looking to do some new things with some visioning and changing the culture a little bit there, because they had different ideas and workplace dynamics that they want to introduce now as the new leader. And so it's just really cool to see that come full circle. And I'm really not in it for the monetary. It's nice to be able to go on trips and stuff, but really I want to help, and again, I don't want to be that other end of the bookmark where I just disappear and float away. If I can help build the new generation of leaders in our profession and provide them with insight and experience of what I learned, that's very satisfying to me. So,
yeah. Let me hammer home on one of those points. So we are at our stage in our career that a lot of our friends and colleagues are transitioning into director roles, or have been in director roles, or maybe even they've stepped up into a larger director role than they had previously. And I think you could probably provide some insight on this as well. But what is something, when you stepped into a new position, what is something that you didn't pay enough attention to early on in realizing that new job that you ultimately had to learn the hard way on?
As like a director.
Yeah, and it could be any role.
Yeah, it could be any position.
But director, you're exposed to like some of the representation or the political folks as well. So sometimes when we're rec superintendents or some lower management position, we don't always have to worry about that. So maybe director.
Yeah, I think learning the hard way was not feeling like I had to control and do everything, and empowering staff. It didn't come easily.
Yeah.
I came from facility management arena before I went up to administration and leadership, and so I was used to handling all the details, the schedules and everything like that. And it was funny, a story, my administrative assistant, may she rest in peace, but at Palatine, Trish would, I first started, getting to know each other and doing this, and I had my to-do lists, and I'm just, I gotta do this, I gotta get this. So I start doing work, and then of course, as I'm trying to get this stuff, I need to understand a little bit more about the history and dynamics of that particular district and how things were done. And she looked at me first 5 or 6 times. She kind of looking at me puzzly, and I know she wanted to be nice, but what was going through her head is, Mike, we have people already hired to do this stuff,
right?
and so I did learn that the hard way, and not only the human resources, but just the commitment and attitude of the team. And what I loved about it was that transition from being that taskmaster, to-do list, get her done kind of guy to rely on the people you have there, empower them, and then you can move on and progress to the more visionary, strategic thinking, and not be so consumed with the minutia that you were used to doing. And so that was a transition, especially more specific to going from operations to administration, if you will. It was a great experience to go through, and very enlightening and refreshing.
Yeah.
And then I think, just the matter of trust, trusting that people will put their best foot forward. And even when things didn't work out, I learned very quickly that it's not so much that the mistake was made, because another thing on my onboarding list was, if we're not making mistakes, then we're complacent as an organization. We need to keep pushing and trying to reach that new plateau. Even if we're very proficient at something, there's always that new level you should be able to try to reach. That perspective, I think, helped me along the way to learn that not only just delegation, but that trust factor. And then when things didn't work out, make sure that you learn from it. Just don't let it pass by. Just as I said, you got to celebrate the successes. You got to, and I'm not saying like get on the person for making the mistake. It was more like, okay, hey man, we were pushing the envelope a little bit here. We never tried this before. Okay, it may not have got to the outcomes we were reaching, but we're in the game. We were engaged. We were trying these new things, and that's what's important. And if we're not making mistakes, then to me, that's the sign that an agency's starting to die. You become that regurgitation factor. Sorry, probably not a great analogy, but you're just kind of cutting and pasting your way through it. And so that was always something that I learned, and then I tried to pass along to the staff as well.
Leadership's a trip, right? Because I tell people all the time, I was the best recreation superintendent in the country. You couldn't tell me any different. And my reward for doing that so well is I got to never do that again. Right. And it in the sports world, it'd be like, okay, Tom Brady, you won your first, or maybe even you won 2 Super Bowls. Congrats. You now get to coach the team. You never get to throw the ball again. You have to coach. Coaching is more hours. You got to deal with the owner. You got to deal with all the media. Everyone's second guessing everything. That thing you got to do was natural, that it was fun, where you're on the field with your boys making these touchdown passes. You never could do that again. No, you did something. So Michael Jordan, you won your first NBA championship. You now have to coach the Bulls for the rest of your career. And the success and failure of you will be judged not on the one time you were out there with the ball in your hand. It's how you lead the others when you put the ball in their hand. It's a trip that is unlike anything else I've ever experienced. I get it.
You almost wonder in the sports analogy you just made, would anybody want to win a championship?
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah,
it's
but
crazy.
I can make the argument though that sustained success for someone in that sports analogy is the exact same thing. Yes, you won. So now if you want to sustain that and win 7 Super Bowls,
oh boy,
what did you have to do that? You had to become the best leader and bring people around you and bring the best out of them,
but
right?
If Tom Brady had to replace Bill Belichick and he had to bring in a new coach to do what he did so well, so naturally, that's the hard thing about leadership. It's not being the rec superintendent or the rec supervisor or the facility manager or the aquatic specialist. It's stepping up to lead that, and that position that you felt so intuitively to do, you now have to find someone else to do it. You have to watch them do it. You have to watch them fail at it. You have to watch them do it a way you'd never do it. And lead them through all that, and never go back down and get your hands dirty necessarily, because if you're trying to do the head coaching job and the head quarterback job, it's not sustainable. And
that was another message too, is I made sure that the staff knew in every right, they're their own leaders in their own area. And again, it's trying to change that stigma or mindset of that traditional organizational thing and really try to flatten it out and get people to really understand what's important about the collaboration and the roles that we play together. And in their own right, they're their own leaders in what they do. And I wanted to make sure I didn't step on toes. I got out of their way and certainly was there to support and advise them, but I wasn't telling them how to get there or what the outcome had to be, other than, what we collectively agreed to in whatever planning or visioning that we had in place. So, but you want to make sure people understand that, you're a leader. It doesn't matter what your title is. You're a leader in your own right, and those competencies and the attitude and commitment and passion for that is no different than being an executive director in my mind.
Well, Mike, we're gonna switch things over and do some rapid fire questions for you. So
Sure.
we'll do some round robin quick questions, and first thing that comes to mind for you, I'll kick it off. We talked a little bit earlier, you mentioned some golf. So what has been your favorite golf course you've ever played, and what is the one course that you want to play if you could play any course?
Actually, I would say Royal County Down in Newcastle, Northern Ireland, by far was the best course I played, and I just played it.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. Want to get on Augusta.
How do you get on Augusta, right?
Well, he's
I think I gotta
closer-
get my Barack
closer to
Obama. I
Augusta.
gotta get my Barack Obama connection
Right.
back.
You got to
There you
keep
go.
that those networks. The network never ends, right? There's always room to move up. All right,
I think the Augusta Parks and Rec director job just opened up. Maybe that's
Oh, there you go.
I want to get a little more personal on this one and maybe a little more light. Shane asked the question typically of the big three dinner, right? So it's like our conversation here. What three individuals in the Park and Rec field go to? I'm going to switch that up. You're going to NRPA conference every year. Give me a list. We'll say 3, 4, 5 people. Who are those individuals you just really look forward to seeing and having a conversation with? And I'm not talking, it doesn't have to be limited to a professional conversation. So who are 5 in the field that when you would go to the NRPA conference, you were just excited to connect with that individual, have a conversation, have a drink,
and don't worry about forgetting a name. No one listens to this dumb podcast, so no one will hear your answer.
That's why I wanted to give you some leeway. It could be 3, 4, 5. I just curious, you know.
Whoa, well, I always enjoy talking to Jamie Savak. She is just so insightful, so full of energy. Even though I see her every now and then in Illinois, I just adore and love spending time with Tracy Crawford. And learn so much from her about diversity and
She's got so much energy.
Such a great ambassador.
Yeah.
Such a great ambassador for our profession. Diane Hoover, I've always enjoyed her company. Learned a lot from her since my time in the academy. I think I'll leave my dinner table at that for now, unless I think of someone else right
Love
now.
it.
I mean,
All
a couple of my mentors, Terry Schwartz, other people that have just had such a large impact and influence on my career track and building me as a person and a professional. So
Maybe we could be waiters. Like
there you go.
I'll be the bus boy. Tom can be the sommelier. Maybe Jay is the waiter at the
I
table.
definitely would meet all you boys at the bar for an after dinner.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
That's a promise.
So you're in Florida now.
Yes.
Did you have family there? Are you one of the
Yeah,
snowbirds,
so-
or what made the transition?
Yeah, it's a second home on the Gulf Coast, really, for us. I had really good, well, one of them worked in Parks and Rec, but they were our best friends, and they moved down to Sarasota. And so their kids and our kids, eventually they got married, and my wife and I got married. Back then, when we first knew them, we weren't married yet, but we were like hung out all the time. And so their kids were around the same ages as ours. So we would go down there for, spring break and stay with them. And the kids they knew each other and kind of grew up together, even though it was kind of longer distance. And so been going down there for years. And then I had finally had the talk with my mom and dad as they were aging about the grandparent guilt thing, about sticking around for the grandkids. And and the winters were getting hard for them in Chicago, as you can imagine. And so I finally said, and so they were snowbirding for about 7 or 8 years. And again, we would go down and visit them, and they were in the same area. They're in my dad's passed away, but my mom's still in Bradenton. It was just a natural progression for us. Once my wife retired about 3 years ago. We call it retired. We call it retired. She kind of quit her job.
Okay.
But didn't start working again. So we called it retirement.
She's been waiting.
She had a great career. She worked for like 33 years with Crate and Barrel. Started in the stores and worked her way all the way up in corporate. So, and yeah, we were like, our friends are down there. We've been going down there forever. We love the area. My mom's down there now, which is comforting to help her out when she needs help. So Yeah, it's been wonderful. We love our area we're in. We've met so many new friends. Steve and Mary Cervini, they're both Park and Rec people, retired now from Illinois. They're down there, real close to us. So yeah, it's a good situation for us, and we're enjoying the sunshine. Although I'm up here in Chicago because it's like 120 down there right now.
It is.
Well, Mike, you mentioned earlier you're loving retirement and there's that glow that you still have. Is there one challenging part of retirement, and what is it so far?
My backhand to my pickleball game.
Have you offered any
No,
advice to a local Park and Rec professional?
Yeah,
down there yet?
you know what it is? It's trying to keep your mind engaged. I'm doing a lot more reading. I mean,
Sure.
pleasurable reading. You know, I read like a maniac, you know, researching stuff and manuals and policies and, you know, all that.
Yeah.
But now I'm, you know, right now I'm big Jimmy Buffett fan. So, you know, when we lost him, it was a sad day in Parrot Head Nation. But I'm reading Salty Piece of Land right now with Jimmy Buffett and enjoying it very much.
So for those of us, Mike, who have a little bit of a road still to climb here before retirement, you know, I don't want to take anything for granted. You know, I love every day I get to enjoy with my family, and I love going to work every day. We had that conversation with our spouses a couple weeks ago. Was it a couple weeks ago? Yeah. Anyhow, so outside of the people, because I'm sure that's an obvious answer, what do you miss most about the job? So, you know, can't say the people. That's what
yeah,
I think.
no, I get that. That'd be the cop out answer, but I think I miss the organization dynamics of it, like sitting back in a room and watching people collaborate and work together, and just because I've always been kind of that person that I'd like to observe, like when people make decisions, I like to I want to know what went on in here,
Yeah,
to make them deduct what they did to decide what they did. And it wasn't about whether I thought it was right or wrong. It was just the understanding
Context.
more. Yeah. And so I kind of miss that interaction and understanding and just seeing people working together and the leadership. I love it. You know, it was a big, you know, 24 of my 36 years was as executive director. So I think that's probably hitting the nail pretty close there with those things.
no, I really enjoy that answer, and I think about the analogies, right? Like what makes a clock works, right? It's like we're this part of this, you know, this kind of cog in this machine, and we get to see it all go and work around us.
Yeah, and then to know when to tip it one way or the other, or when to engage and when to not. I always tried to be very sensitive and keen to that, because I think that's a sign of a really good leader. Self-awareness, kind of emotional intelligence thing that I really didn't refine until much later in my career, that I really wish I would have thought about and learned and refined it earlier. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had an awesome career. Wouldn't change really anything. Those are some of the things that come to mind that I miss a bit. Yeah.
Was there a quote or a philosophy that you used to get you to the hard times in or out of the industry over the years?
Yeah, my motto was plan well, work hard, smile always, and good things will happen.
It's good.
I think that's like the perfect way to finish, because those things are hopefully things that people can, you know what, that light bulb goes off. You're like, hey, you can't argue that. Like you cannot go against those things. So
yeah,
like,
I put that as my tagline on my signature, and I had it on my bulletin board in my office.
It's great.
And it was something that I frequently looked at and reminded myself, and then, you know, pinched myself, because this is a great profession, and we may not get all the recognition and everything, and the awareness of what we do. I think it's getting better, but yeah, you know, we have a long way to go. And now with my pension and everything, it's like, you know, it wasn't work, you know,
Right.
it was just a way of life. I was a Park District kid, so I still remember the day where, I would work for Downers Grove Park District, and I finally had the aha moment as I was listening to the recreation staff there. And I finally turned to them and I go, hey, like, this is your job? And it's like, I never thought of it. And then when they told me about, their backgrounds and that they went to school for this and that, I researched it, took a couple classes at a community college in recreational leadership, and that was it. I was sold. So it's been an awesome ride.
That's awesome. Thanks.
Mike, one more thing really quick, because
Sure.
I actually was thinking about this, and I'm pretty sure I'm right in what I'm about to say. Earlier, before you came on, when your screen was black, and I said to the guys, do you have any guesses? One of them said Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
I am pretty positive. I went to one of your sessions and you talked about Scooby snacks.
Scooby snacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my other sayings is sharing is caring. And when people share, and actually when I did my last job, I actually bought you can get them online, little bags of Scooby snacks. And so, yes,
That's crazy.
When he said Scooby-Doo, I started laughing hysterically in my office here.
I actually
oh my God, that's like full circle. But yes, Scooby snacks are a part of my repertoire.
That's funny.
I almost was going to say it because I knew that was part of one of your sessions.
Yes,
but I didn't want to give it away right away. So I had to bring it back.
That's incredible.
That's a good memory, because I think that was several years ago.
Yeah. That's incredible. And Jay, when you led into that about the Scooby, I thought you were going to say that Mike has an incredible Scooby-Doo impression.
Oh, wait a minute. I do. Oh, no, that's Yogi Bear.
Still good.
That's awesome.
We'll take it. It will get clipped. That's great.
So we got a Yogi Bear call, and we also can have a turkey caller over here.
That's
too.
right. We got that.
That's right. Yep.
Then you can do clutch cargo for those that aren't. Hello.
Oh, Mike. Well, this was great. I appreciate the time.
Boys, it's been a pleasure. It's good to see you all.
Yeah,
I'm
great
going
to
try
catch
to
up.
make it to Atlanta, so
awesome.
Cool.
maybe I'll see you there.
Okay, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks
Mike.
for being on.
Thanks, guys.
Keep enjoying that retirement. You too.
Yep, I will, bud. Thanks.
Man, that's awesome. He's such a fun guy to talk to.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
And y'all
not
know
to-
him better than I do. Y'all both
Okay.
know him pretty well, I believe.
Probably because Tom and I have been on some
committees.
academy committees because we say yes when someone asks us for some help,
Yeah.
and you just ignore it.
Hey, easing my frustration.
Hey, you know what? He said yes to me the other day. I was real happy about that. But yeah, Mike
Begrudgingly.
is yes, I could tell. He is really hard not to like, right? He's one of those guys. He talked about at the end his motto, and that I love the third bullet of that, always smile. It's hard not to smile when you're around him. I mean, look how that show just ended.
A table with him and Tracy. I can't remember who was other, but like there's gonna
Jamie.
be a belly of laughs. Oh yeah. Belly of laughs. You know what I was thinking? I wrote something down. Passion negates the need for a major. I wonder, we were talking about the major earlier. Like we found out on the spouse episode what we sometimes take for granted is our spouses driving to work and they sit in the parking lot and they convince themselves to get out of the car.
Yeah.
I have some sister-in-laws, shout out to Becca and Esther. They listen to this show religiously. I almost feel like they're the Tracy of Smartless because they don't know anything about Parks and Rec. They always reach out to me and say, what's Capra? What's the gold medal? What's the Academy? I almost need to be like, for Becca and Esther, blank is blank. But they commented today because the spouse episode, came out and they said, one of them said, I have to convince myself to walk into the thing. And in those jobs, those IT jobs, those finance jobs, you have to have education. You have to have a major that shows you how to do that job. I wonder if passion is the reason our industry is becoming extinct, because if you can come into our field and you care about the people you're serving, somebody hopefully at your agency can teach you how to program a tournament or how to open and close a facility. But like those jobs don't seem to have the passion that we have. And that's why they have to have the education and the things that are layered into making sure that there are engineer positions in this world. I don't know, maybe it's just a thought, but listening to him and how passionate he is, like that guy wouldn't, I'm sure he has a lot of education, but you wouldn't need an ounce of it to hire him and to
No.
know that he could do it. Yeah.
You nailed it, Shane. You nailed it. I tell people that all the time, and I think I'm biased because I wasn't a park and rec major, so I didn't come from the field of park and rec. I came from a story just like Mike just shared, but it was after college where I said, wait a minute, I've been working summer camp this whole time, and you're telling me you have a full-time job that does all of this and more? And it just spoke to me. Yes, I don't believe that, and I'm not trying to downgrade the major, right? But it's different. It's different. You know, lawyers go to school, doctors go to school, teachers go to school for these very specific whatever programs that they're in. And you talked about leaders, right? And in a football world, right? Tom Brady's not becoming the coach. It's kind of the same thing with lawyers typically, right? Yeah, you might start your own practice and you might have some people under you, but most of them are probably not giving up. They're the best at what they do. They're just going to get better cases. They're going to get into more high profile situations. And so it's very unique what we do. I do believe that we can go out and grab someone off the street who's super passionate about people, right? It's got to be about people, and they can really learn what we do.
And Mike's got it.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
the dude
100%.
just glows, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
That was a great pull. What a great guest to end our season on.
Nice. Yeah, we did contemplate if you were trying to pull one over us and try to get the re-record. Jay,
yeah, we thought this could be a Jay Cole episode.
We were trying to trick you into that yesterday when we asked a couple questions, you know. So
I never even thought about it, to be honest with you. And I was telling Shane before you came on, because you made a comment about the pre-show question or the pre-guest question. I did have that plan to do that, but it was based on the number of the episode. I thought today's episode was a different number than what it is, and it would have made more sense for me to go that direction. So
great question based on the number. Interesting.
Yeah, that'll be for another day. Another story for another day.
Fun episode though.
141. We'll get the question.
Yeah. Oh, that would be. It's so funny because you just said that 141, and obviously we're at 42, and we've come a long way. But Mike said something before he got off, and it got me thinking. Okay, so we're not retiring yet. We still have however many years. We're all probably fairly close.
Shane's got 4 years, but we've got
that's right.
Tom and I might have a little bit more.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I can't imagine that. I don't know what it's going to be like to not work. Like I just, we're all such driven people that I've said it to Lindsay, I'm going to really struggle with retirement. And maybe everyone feels that way. Maybe they don't feel that way. I don't know. I know I think I'm going to really struggle with retirement, but I would be so thrilled if 3 people after I retired wanted to talk to me about my career.
Yeah.
And I just makes me excited about I know we talk about we're not doing this podcast for, any self pleasure or any growth for individuals. It's really to help grow the field and profession and what we do. But man, if someone else, came along and started doing something like this in 10, 15 years and wanted to talk to us, that would be so much fun.
Yeah, that would be.
Agree.
I completely agree. And I think we're enjoying this podcast, and we get these little notes, not a lot of notes. 500 people don't reach out to us every week and tell us how great of a job we're doing.
It's usually just Esther and
Becca.
Becca. So yeah.
But you get something that says, I listen to this every Friday on my way into work, or I make sure I listen to it every Monday on my way into work. I've got an hour commute and I listen to it, and it just resets my week or whatever. And for those that do that, we're glad you're out there listening, because that's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you for sending us the note, because that definitely takes it a notch higher to that enjoyment we get out of this.
For sure.
Well, thanks guys. And we are officially wrapping up season 2.
It's crazy.
Yes, season 2 wrap. The wrap episode's coming up, so I'm excited.
We've only got a week to find our favorites. This is going to be a hectic week.
Wait, did we get the question list yet?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Yes, we got less. Hey, we got to get on Hannah for that one. All right. All right. Thanks, Jay. Great work
job,
today.
Jay.
Thanks guys. We'll talk to everybody soon. Take care.
See ya.